안녕하세요. 참가번호 4번 제주 한국국제학교 정예슬입니다. 제주 4.3이 전 세계 사람들이 알고 기억해야 할 중요한 역사라는 생각이 들어 이 대회에 참여하게 되었습니다. 조금 떨리지만 열심히 해보겠습니다. 감사합니다. Jeju 4.3 incident. That's how we call it. By definition, an incident is an occurrence of an action or situation that is a separate unit of experience. It is a single event that started and ended. But Jeju 4.3 was so much more than a simple event that took place on an island of South Korea, separate from the rest of the world. Rather, it was a deliberate product of a global ideological conflict of the time, one that continues to this day. In order for us to truly understand 4.3 and avoid repeating the same painful history, we must get to the root of the problem by looking at the larger context behind it. Namely, the Cold War. It was 1947, 2 years after Korea had gained independence from Japan. But it wasn't long until our ancestors' dream of building a truly independent nation, free from foreign pressures, fell apart, as our land became divided into two sides, between the North and the South, under the influence of the USSR and the United States, which came to control Jeju and its people. It is during this extreme political turmoil that the first shots are fired at innocent residents of our island, following what started out as a peaceful demonstration to commemorate the March 1st Independence Movement Day. Soon, hundreds of civilians rose up against the police violence, the oppressive American military occupation, and most importantly, the May 10th election of 1948 that would be held only in South Korea as opposed to the entire peninsula. Unconditional independence and complete self-determination. That's what the Jeju people wanted and demanded. They yearned for the freedom to shape the future of their own country without any external control. Yet, they were ruthlessly slaughtered, accused of inciting and participating in communist riots simply because they refused to comply with the leaders in power. They called Jeju a red island, and perhaps it's the blood of the Jeju people that made the island so red. This ideological conflict between the left and the right only grew worse after the establishment of the South Korean government, killing countless students, teachers, parents, and children, many of whom had nothing to do with the political and military fights, without a hint of remorse. Clearly, the horror of that April 74 years ago is not unfamiliar to us. Throughout history, all around the world, we have chosen to divide ourselves into groups, declaring anyone with a perspective unlike our own as our enemy, without trying to understand them or find a way to come to a reconciliation. Too many times we've let our hatred and prejudices trample on the most fundamental and valuable human rights. And in that process, too many innocent people have been victimized. But what's even more devastating and important to remember that these issues are far from over. Taiwan, for instance, has suffered from a very similar tragedy in the February 28 incident of 1947, from which the people are still recovering. Also, recently, war broke out between Russia and Ukraine, serving as a painful reminder that the differences in our political and social views are continuing to polarize our world. Now, at this point, we wonder, then how do we solve these problems? What do we do to move forward? Is there anything you and I can do right now to make sure that a tragedy like Jeju 4.3 never happens again? I offer two solutions. First, we need to see each other as human beings without prejudice. We must listen to what other people have to say and put our best effort to understand where they're coming from. We must put all the labels aside, men and women, old and young, black and white, straight and queer, left and right. And we must remember that history cannot be an excuse to neglect our past wrongdoings. We should stop saying things like, back then it was inevitable. There's no such thing as an inevitable violation of human rights. Second, each and every one of us must learn from the men and women of Jeju who fought bravely to protect themselves, their friends, family, colleagues, and neighbors. We must remember their courage and willingness to risk their lives to see freedom and peace triumph in the face of oppression and violence. We must remember the names of our very own heroes, Kim Il-ryul, Moon Young-sun, Kim Sung-hoon, Kang Ge-bong, Go-Jun, Chang Sung-sun, and so many more that we have yet to discover. They've taught us that our rights will be taken away from us only if we let them. To call Jeju 4-3 an incident is to undermine the depth and gravity of the pain that is still just as real to the victims and their families as it was 74 years ago. The gunshots started and ended, but the fight for peace and human rights has always been and will continue to be fought. Today we may be talking about Jeju's past, but the spirit of 4-3 urges us to start dreaming of a better future. Thank you.